We're now halfway around the clock with a las seis. The teacher that invented this system calls a las seis el elefante. Can you guess why? He says it's because it looks like the butt of an elephant. I'm not making this up. A las seis is very unique because it's totally subjective. What that means is the person who's speaking has complete control over how the verb is conjugated. We start with a V1, as usual, and then we have the word aunque. Aunque means even though. And then we have a V2. The V2 can either be in the normal or indicative mood, or in the subjunctive. The V2 is normal if the person speaking accepts the information that he or she is saying. It's subjunctive if the person that's speaking doesn't accept the information he or she is saying, or has difficulty accepting the information that he or she is saying. I'll show you some examples, and hopefully it'll make more sense. This sentence is a las seis. No me gustan las espinacas aunque sean saludables. That's saying, I don't like spinach, even though it's healthy. The person who's speaking knows that spinach is healthy, but refuses to accept that information because he or she doesn't like spinach. That's why the V2 is conjugated in the subjunctive. Here's another example. Quieres a tu hermana aunque ella es terca. You love your sister even though she's stubborn. In this sentence, it's a known fact that the person's sister is stubborn. It's conjugated in the indicative because the person accepts the fact that his or her sister is stubborn but loves her anyway. If we look back at the rules for a las seis, we'll see that there's a G3 that can be paired with V2. With G3s, you don't need the word aunque. There are not very many verbs that fit into the G3 category. There are no verbs from type 1, which are a mí me. There are no verbs from type 2, which is ser and estar. The only verbs that can be G3 are type 3 and 4 verbs that express acceptance. I have a list for you of lots of G3 verbs. They are type 3 and type 4 verbs. You can tell because some of them have prepositions afterwards. Anyway, the first verb on the list is aceptar, which means to accept. Wow, that definitely expresses acceptance. Then we have alegrarse de, which is to be happy about. Arrepentirse de is to be sorry about. Aguantar is to endure or to put up with. Comprender is to understand. Contar con is to count on. Emocionarse de is to get excited about. Entender is also to understand. Estar de acuerdo con is to agree with. Soportar is to sort of like put up with. Temer is to fear, and tolerar is to also put up with, like to tolerate. This is an example of a G3 in a sentence. I used the verb entender, which means to understand. So, entiendo que a los estudiantes no les guste el español. I understand that the students don't like Spanish. This is a really, really hard thing for me to accept. So that's why I conjugated the verb in the subjunctive. Here's another example with another G3, aceptar. Aceptamos que Laura sale con Felipe. We accept that Laura is going out with Felipe. This is something that's not too hard for us to accept because they make a good couple. So it's conjugated in the indicative. I want to drive my point home with one last example. These are two sentences side by side that are both at 6 o'clock, but they have completely different meanings. The first one is toleran que no te gusta bailar. That means they tolerate or they accept that you don't like to dance, and they're not really happy about it, but it's okay. You can see on the right-hand side, there's a face that's not really happy, but not really sad. But then if you said toleran que no te guste bailar, then that person or that group of people is extremely disappointed that you don't like to dance. Which type of conjugation you use at 6 o'clock is up to you, as long as you understand the context of each conjugation, indicative and subjunctive.